Hey everybody, it's your pal Drew Dracy, and I'm going to be answering the question of who are the Liberty Legion? Man, they're a team from World War II, America's home front superheroes of World War II, and I loved them right off the spot. Just very colorful, and the year it was the bicentennial, 1976, when this came out, so you saw red, white, and blue everywhere, and Captain America had Kirby coming back and doing some amazing stuff on Mad Bomb. But from whence did the Liberty Legion come? Well, the Invaders, which was one of my favorite series. A new series that started up due to Roy Thomas, his enthusiasm for World War II heroes. Thomas was coming of age in the late 40s when there were a lot of DC and Marvel comics that were dealing with post-war excitement and or adventures, but there were a lot of back issues to be found just anywhere, because back then comics were disposable. So Roy was getting really good at it. He grew up to have an encyclopedic knowledge of Marvel, DC, and other books from that point onward. So the Invaders is a throwback to 1940s, and it's in continuity, and it works the way since Roy knows so much about the previous appearances, he actually he'll have footnotes to the most absurd storyline ever that somebody just tossed together, in a few days in the Golden Age, and Roy finds a way to fit it in continuity. I don't think we had, until Mark Gruenwald, I don't think anybody else was that detailed with that kind of stuff. And so Invaders start off as a giant size issue 1, same month as Giant Size X-Men 1, which is just an amazing month. I never saw X-Men for like a year. It must have sold out like crazy. And I only saw it was like 98 was the first issue, well into the first year. So the Invaders, though, I got it from my friend Rick down the street on Azalea Drive, and it was double size, 50 cents. So thankfully the denomination of the comics was pretty even. I gave him 2 comics, 25 cents. He gave me a 50-cent comic. Then later on I got the Incredible Hulk Marvel Treasury Edition, which was $1.50, and I would trade him 6 comics for it. So and that was fun for a while. And then shortly thereafter, everybody else outgrew them. But, I stayed a closeted comic book fan. I mean, my best friends knew it, but I didn't spread that word around, because that wasn't cool. That shit wasn't cool, baby. There was no Big Bang Theory back then. Red Skull. What's great is Roy decided to hold off on having the Red Skull right away. There's a quick mention of him in the Giant Size Invaders number 1. The giant size books I've covered before, they lasted 2 years, but then they were failing, and they went all reprint. So issues 1 and 2 of the Invaders were meant for giant size number 2. However, when they had the new number 1, new number 2, I really didn't like those issues, because they dealt with some Germanic gods that weren't Thor. It was like Lonar and some other guys, and it was like a history lesson, and bored me to death. That's just me being narrow-minded. I wanted superhero slugfests. But Roy was a teacher for a time before he got into, professionally into comics in '65, I think it was. So issue 3 and 4 had U-Man, who was like a U-boat character that was an Atlantean. Now we get the Red Skull. First time I learned about Bucky was Giant Size Invaders number 1, and it totally tripped me out. I mean, I was in love with the character. I wish I was him, because who wouldn't want a mentor better than Captain America? So he was Robin to his Batman, and I just loved it. I was like, he's got a sidekick, and he's a little kid too. So original Human Torch, I knew him from the short-lived 8-issue run of Human Torch, the reprint series from 74-75. It first half of the book was reprinting the failed Strange Tales, spin-off from Fantastic Four, and it had just Johnny Storm. Pretty mediocre stuff. It started off with Lee and Kirby, and you could tell they weren't even interested in the beginning, because Sue and Johnny had secret identities, which is absurd. Then later on, Larry Lieber, Dick Ayers, and a whole host of other artists and writers just kind of killed time. But I'm digressing yet again. So Mariner I knew from Supervillain Team Up, and I didn't really like him, but I like him now. Usually Frank Robbins does the art, and at the time Vince Colletta was inking him, but this is a fill-in issue art-wise. It's in continuity, but Rich Buckler and Dick Ayers are the pencilers. Jim Mooney inks, and he himself is a really good artist. He did Supergirl in the 60s. He inked John Romita on an acclaimed run of Spider-Man, and Jim Mooney was also he did Ms. Marvel, and just a whole bunch of stuff that I really enjoyed. So, people wondering why are the invaders destroying this American munitions plant. And I love Mooney's inks it really ties both those artists together. Turns out the Red Skull has them under his spell. I love that. What a gruesome panel that is. This is likely Dick Ayers. It's very stiff, but it's not a problem because all they're doing is listening to the radio. You're not going to sit there and jerk your head around while you're listening to the radio. Back then, that was the main source of news. TV wasn't. Very few very rich people managed to get crude TVs at the beginning. Okay, Dick Ayers here, definitely telling the faces, where Bucky and Toro are reading some Marvel comics, and they're all excited. And I love that face. It's so cool. And they're looking at all these inconsistencies. They got Namor's trunks wrong, my hair color, blah blah blah. It's fun. It's a fun moment. So they're going to do a war bond rally to try and raise money to help fight the Axis. They're going in New York City, and this evil SOB is going to fire into the crowd, but Cap and Bucky are to rescue. And so are the Torches, and so is Namor. I love how it shows all 5 characters, and there's no feeling of things being crammed in. So this is definitely a Buckler page because he's stuck in a couple of Kirby swipes from, I think, the Super Adaptoid issue of Tales of Suspense. But that, I don't care. Buckler is a great artist, or when he was alive, but he would use Kirby poses once in a while. He was pretty much on Kirby characters, and some he'd do more, some he'd do just very few. So we got this big old Red Skull in the sky. He's not really that big. I love that face. Torches go after him. It's essentially like a boom tube, which is what Kirby created, which is a transportation tube. But this book came out 5 years later, so it's not like if you were continuity-wise retro it back to the 40s, you could say, oh, they created the boom tube. But that's me getting my geek on. So same exact pose as before. He's like, yeah, what are you waiting for, creep? And the Skull is laughing at him, saying, oh, you're just a kid. You're a mascot. I can't follow her. I have no use for you. So that's a great panel there. He's like kind of just squat down in that whole panel. Just you got shoes, you got city, you got the vanishing image, you got Bucky, you got someone approaching him, then you have people in the background. That's one of the Kirby things. And I'm not saying swipe. It's a cinematic approach. And then Jim Steranko, Bucky charges in, and he's like, I got a plan, it'll work. All we need to do is interrupt all the major radio networks. And they're like, it's too big a step for mere youngsters, say so. But Bucky, he's got moxie. So this continues at the Marvel premiere. Invaders was still a bi-monthly book at the time. And here we got Don Heck and inked by Vince Colletta. And I tell you, I love the results. Look at the fabric on Bucky there. So it's a Marvel mag, so he punches his way in with some guards. And this other guy, the Patriot, he's about to give a patriotic speech. Is there any other kind the Patriot could give? But Bucky charges in, And he's like, it looks like Captain America's young friend Bucky, but anybody could copy his costume from the photos and newspapers. I could say the same thing about you. So he's like, he goes, you have not been cleared by the OWI, Office of War Information. See, this is where Roy's teacher background really helps. He still knows so much about the era, and so there's a bit going on with the fight, but there were live crowds back then for radio. Radio ruled. So you would have live crowds in a lot of these shows. Like Bob Hope would do shows, Hope and Crosby, and then you would also have early versions, I think, of the Honeymooners and some other stories that made it to television. So anyway, theirs all cleared, and Bucky says, you had a bunch of other so-called superheroes with names like Challenger, the Wizard, Miss America, the Finn, the Thunderer, because maybe we can stop the invaders and bring them back to their senses. It'd take a legion of guys like that. Sounds sensible. So, love how Coletta treats that shirt. Big, bold lines. Freehand. Totally cool. Great storytelling device. Bucky's looking over the dossier of a variety of superheroes. And there's Red Raven, who appeared in one issue of Red Raven comics, and then later on he showed up in the Silver Age, but I will cover that in another episode, where he shows up in X-Men and then in Submariner in the Silver Age and the Bronze Age. But then they jump to the actual characters. There's Thin Man. It's sort of one of those, he ends up in Shangri-La sorta, and there's a special gas that makes everybody elastic, and he goes back to America to fight the good fight. I love these pages here. I think, like, Don Heck had a problem with trying to be Kirby, because he was kind of told to beat Kirby. Everyone was, once Kirby really got Marvel Comics on fire. And Lee meant more in dynamics. Like, you would see Barry Windsor-Smith start off that way. And Don Heck, for a while, right shortly before this era, he was really struggling. He was like, I don't have that much in me to, and you could sort of see some uneven work that Don Heck made, but I guarantee you Roy Thomas wrote some tight scripts, and I think Heck probably thrived under that because he didn't have to dream up these slugfests and background stories. And then there's the Wizard. He almost dies from a cobra bite, but a mongoose shows up, kills the cobra. So the father just decides to inject the dying blood of the mongoose into his son's veins, and he just goes, oh, darn it. And all of a sudden he finds his fist goes real fast. How? I don't know. I don't care. With the awkward name Wizard. Don't blame us for that name, people. It all happened in USA Comics 1. And you know what? I didn't get it. I didn't think Wizard, like the obvious joke. I called him the Whizzler. For some reason, I had an L in there, and I thought of, there was Twizzlers, delicious candy. So I thought he was the Whizzler. And then there's Miss America. I love how she shows up upside down. That's a great panel. Well, these two kind of bicker a little bit. Who in blazes are you? Hey, blah, blah, blah. And they hear Bucky's newscast, and there's a bit of flirting going on there. And then we learned about the Blue Diamond. It's some professor who found the largest stone in Antarctica, but there was a U-boat that shattered it. The area, including the gem pieces, got inside of Elton Morrow, and became Blue Diamond. And he sold, what did he sell? Almonds. So the rest of them show up. It's pretty cool. Then this guy, Jack Frost, shows up at the very last minute to stop this guy from firing. And he's kind of the Submariner of the group. He's from a stranger from a strange land, and the Liberty Legion. And that was so cool. I was like, man, these are great. These are great characters. And good old Roy Thomas never just disappoints with the text page he does with every new issue or new storyline. This is issue 29 of Marvel Premiere, but it's not. It is the first issue of these guys. So, Marvel value stamps. They made them like puzzles. Nah, I can do it. I wouldn't do that to you. Okay, the Invaders. Oh, Kirby and Senate cover. Beautiful. At the time, Marie Severin was doing layouts for Kirby. and the results are just wunderbar. So we have this flashback, step into kick, and they're all standing there. Great stuff going on. Got that wacky Red Skull doing his thing. So let's go Legion. Really cool fight. Really, really well. The whole storyline is just really tight. So they managed to catch Toro. The wizard spins around, knocks out the flame, and the boys have less importance to me than you are. So now they have a bonus. They're one super character in the Invaders. Hey, Ma, they're blitzing the Bronx. Love that title. Liberty Legion. Back to Heck and Coletta. Really cool stuff. We have a final battle in Yankee Stadium. Just exceptional fighting poses from Don Heck here. So at the end, another page that describes all the characters when they showed up, the changes that Roy did for the book, because their costumes were all over the place. They're really wonky. So later on, that year, 1976, was the year that Marvel got rid of the giant-sized books that were half reprint and went all new with a 50-cent annual. There were less pages, though, unfortunately. But you know, it was during the OPEC oil crisis, and the inflation was out of this world. This is John Buscema, Sam Granger. When I found out, like, my favorite new super team meeting one of my favorite super teams, I just loved it as the Watcher. Not interfering as usual, but he's interfering at the same time. Really great stuff. So anyway, at the time, the Thing is back to being Ben Grimm, but he got an exoskeleton built for him by Reed. And when this came out on the stands, I was in Etna, PA at this bookstore. It sold all a variety of books and magazines and comical books in the back. I almost passed out from geekdom. It was just the Marvel 2-in-1 with the Thing. Every issue was just a home run. It didn't matter how crappy the co-star might be. So I'm like, the Liberty Legion again. So you get a gradual introduction to somebody who may not be familiar with them. Great page there. Sam Granger is still inking the book, the storyline, but it's Hal Buscema doing the pencils. And I would have liked to see them do more work together. But you know, this guy's kind of bloodthirsty, like Namor, in the best possible way. He goes, you know, tell your leader more on the way down. Tell him how I froze your propeller and to a standstill and your cockpit shut. I shall meet you a mile below. And then Blue Diamond blasts through these SOBs. Great stuff. Great stuff. Very exciting stuff. And then it wraps up in the Thing's own book to the regular monthly. So, I forgot to show you the greatest page of all. That's it right there. Wow, boy, oh boy, that is beautiful. I love how Sal made sure the Thin Man was like a ribbon falling from the sky. Although a good gust of wind would probably send him off this way. Maybe he should have stayed in human form till the last minute, but who cares? They're cool, but there was no more Legion story. At least a complete one. Now the Invaders, this is from Invaders Classic that came out in the 2000s. This is late in the series, and it's got, you'll see Alan Coverberg, Don Heck, and Rick Hoberg as the artists, and it's because they've left over pages from the planned Liberty Legion third outing, which didn't happen. So there you go, you got two, and Hoberg does a nice job on it. This actually is inked a lot better, it's just poorly reproduced. If they had done a Marvel Masterworks of it, it would have been a lot better. But who knows? Who knows? Maybe one day. Even though they've discontinued the Masterworks format for now. Great design, Iron Cross, badass. And just to remind you, he looks a little like Titanium Man because Don Heck designed Titanium Man, one of his best designs. So this last panel, I guarantee you, it was a Rick Hoberg redraw because that looks nothing like Heck or Kupperberg. So we go back and it's still Heck. That would have been like their first issue was fighting this guy. And I'm jumping ahead here. I'm just going to the there. That is so Don Heck. And then that's very Alan Kupperberg because he loved to put the fists right above the forehead as an action pose. And there's U-Man, there's Lady Lois. So we're getting towards the end of the run, issue 38. The book lasted until double-sided issue 41, and Don Glutz started writing, and it kind of bugged me because Roy Thomas, it was his baby. He loved it. He loved the superheroes of the era. And here we got some more Don Heck, and then it just kind of fizzled out. And also, I didn't realize I would miss Frank Robbins. This stuff is okay. Alan Kupperberg was very new at the time. And his stuff was kind of wonky, and as wonky as Frank Robbins' stuff was, his storytelling was superb, and his sense of the era of 1940s was perfect, because he, like a lot of artists, were influenced by Milton Caniff from Terry and the Pirates and other artists of that era, and it just wasn't a smooth fit with superheroes at Marvel. He did do a couple of issues of The Shadow, though, that were just, for DC, that were out of this world. So what happens is, I'm going to be taking a leave of absence from the Legion to join up with the Invaders. They're short one-man Union Jack. And while they're here in the States and one man, au contraire. Have you forgotten that also short one woman, the blonde bombshell named Spitfire? Slow down, lady, you're moving too fast, even for me. Well, they go, and they get a little mushy. So they tease each other, but they're very attracted to each other. It's sort of what do you call that? I'm trying to think of her name. Anyway, sort of like George Burns and his wife Gracie, who do a lot of that stuff. So that is the last we see of any original Liberty Legion stuff. They didn't even get revived at all in the 90s when everything was being revived. However, I'm going to flashback a touch. This came out in 1999. It's interesting because Marvel was in bankruptcy, and this seems like such an impractical publication, but part of me thought, well, it's probably for copyright purposes for the 1940s versions of these characters, plus Citizen V and the Finn. Introduction by Mickey Spillane, who wrote some of these comics for Marvel. I'm just going to jump ahead to the Red Raven, his first and only appearance in the Golden Age. So he's on a plane as a child, and everybody dies except him. These bird people take him in, and they teach him how to fly. So my membranous wings will save us. As the aging gas begins to pour into the airtight chamber, the girl watches her partner in death turn to the Red Raven. Hold on a second. I think our little baby girl dog is barking to come in. I was right. This is our little baby girl, Skittles. She's a Shih Tzu / Poodle mix, and Sunny is a Maltese Poodle mix, and they're both rescue dogs. I'm big on rescue dogs. They need lots of love too. So it's kind of a short thing. Even though his name is on the cover, he doesn't really get a lot of time. This is, I think, his only story. Oh, where you go? I'm gonna have to hold you because that's what I'm gonna have to do, huh? second. My puppies are just so silly. Hey, baby girl. Like, I'll give you love all day anyway. So, anyway. It's not spoiling if they deserve it. That's my opinion. Okay. So this is a lot of fun. A little buried treasure. And one thing I want to suggest is Marvel Masterworks, they did, like, gosh, a bunch of Golden Age ones. And they didn't sell very well, so you can get these very cheap. You can get them for like under $30, you know, at the most $30 even on Amazon. So look at that murderer's row of artists and writers. So here we first get our exposure to Marvel Mystery Comics number 21. Alex Schomburg cover, classic artist. He's done so many amazing issues. But here comes the Patriot. Red on blue is not ideal. It's just really bad. But back then the printing was so shitty it didn't matter. So, and he's got kind of a meh costume, and that's part of the reason why Roy Thomas redid it. Made it less silly. Even though, like, my wife would argue that all superheroes are silly. She's not a fan. So that's just her thing. She got her own thing. She loves collecting rocks and minerals and stuff, so and that ain't my thing. So yeah, he looks just kind of like a jock. But there's Patriot from then, and this one, USA Comics. It's the Defender shows up. I don't know if he ever made a modern era appearance. But here is the Wizard. It has the very first appearance. He's wearing a cape. His costume's a lot different. He's got more of a helmet. It's Al Avison and Al Gabriel, the guys who took over for Captain America when Simon and Kurt left Captain America after issue 10. So that's so impractical to have a cape. It got changed. His costume changed several times. Back then, in the Silver Age, people were just banging out stuff as fast as they can. So he got a more conventional costume. And let's see what else. I think that's it for now. I don't have a lot more of the Golden Age. So, yeah, but I do have other follow-ups. I will be following up later. This is just a teaser. There's Blue Diamond. There's a Captain America miniseries collected. There's Red Raven stuff. And all Winter Squad stuff. But that's it for this time, because I wanted to do a tighter half hour than the rambling 1 hour show that I did prior, and it failed miserably because I ran out of steam. So anyway, hope you like this. I will talk to you soon. Tell me if this is your first exposure to any of these characters, like where you first met them. If you have, like the Wizard was the first one I knew because he showed up in Avengers Giant Size #1. And for some reason the Finn doesn't get any love either, or Citizen B. And if you did first discover the Invaders, what did you think about it? And did you get any Golden Age comics handed down to you? You get any Golden Age comics handed down to you by family members? Just curious. Let me know, please. A ton of comments. I love to hear what others have to say, and I don't argue. I don't, I'm not getting. Oh, see, she's upset at the idea of even arguing. Oh, princess. I'm such a mush. Anyway, please leave comments below. Please hit like and subscribe. Even if you've already subscribed and had notifications, please double check, because YouTube's been screwing up this algorithm lately, where there's a lot of bigger channels than mine that have had notifications drop off because of the insidious algorithm. And I don't know what it is. It's annoying as hell. But tell me what you think, and what would your idea of having a Liberty Legion series be like? I think it would be great. And if you couldn't have Don Heck now, I'd get some other. There's many great artists that could pull that stuff off today. And however, the Invaders can't keep their own book. I mean, they don't last very long. And I'll attach a link to the below, which is crazy because they're great characters, all of them. And that's it. Have a good day, everybody. And thank you for spending time with me. And I will talk to you all later.